I had no idea that a single picture could completely change my life. However, last Saturday was precisely that. There I was, standing beside the director of the company, Mr. Olivier. He shook my hand and we both smiled. "Finally got that promotion," was the caption. "Hard labor is rewarded. Professional achievement." I didn't give posting it any thought. It was just another social media career update. I didn't realize how mistaken I was. My name is Rachel, and at the age of 24, Marshall and Associates gave me my first significant opportunity. From an entry-level manager, I rose to the position of department head. It wasn't simple. For 4 years, I worked extra hours, made a ton of presentations, and drank more coffee than I would want to acknowledge. But it meant the world to me that I did it alone. My phone was buzzing while I was still feeling the thrill of my promotion. I immediately recognized it, my mother, even though the number wasn't recorded. After 8 years of not speaking to me, she suddenly called. I gazed at the screen while my hand trembled. "Hello." I didn't want my voice to sound so quiet. "My dear Rachel." I remembered my mother's voice as being lovely but phony. When she wanted anything, that was the tone she employed. "Your post was just viewed by your father and me. We are so proud of you." Proud. I felt like I was slapped by the word. When I most needed their pride, where was it? I answered, clutching my desk to stay upright, "Thanks." "We ought to rejoice. How about spending this weekend with us? We are able to host a suitable celebration for you. The entire family would be thrilled to see how prosperous you have gotten." The entire family? Madison was the one in question. My younger sister. The preferred one. The child with the golden hue. The one incapable of wrongdoing. "I'll give it some thought," I murmured, my throat constricted. "Please, sweetheart, do. You have been much missed. Don't you believe it's time to move on from the past?" I sat there with my heart racing after we hung up. I gazed blankly at nothing on my desk. 8 years of silence, broken because of one social media post. 8 years since I walked out of that house, promising myself I'd never go back. 8 years of building a life without them. My hand brushed against the medical alert bracelet on my wrist. It warned about my severe peanut allergy, the same allergy my parents treated like an inconvenience, and Madison used for her cruel jokes. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind. Family is who treats you like family, not just who shares your blood. She was my real parent. For the past 8 years, Grandma had been there for me. She supported me through college. She believed in me when no one else did. The words, "proud of you," kept repeating in my head. It's strange how those words can feel so empty coming from one person and so full of love from another. I looked at the photo on my desk. It was me and Grandma at my college graduation. She was smiling, truly proud of me. Not the fake pride my parents suddenly seemed to have now. The phone call from Mom brought back everything I had tried to forget. The past came flooding back, and it hurt just as much as it did back then. Madison was 4 years younger than me. But from the moment she was born, she became the star of the family. Everything revolved around her. I got clothes from discount stores while Madison wore designer outfits. My parents used expensive cameras to capture her every moment, while my school achievements were stuffed into drawers and forgotten. I remember my 11th birthday so clearly. I had been hoping for an art set I'd seen, a simple kit with colored pencils and a sketchbook. It wasn't anything fancy. Instead, I got a pack of No. 2 pencils. "You need these for school anyway," Mom said. That same year, for Madison's 8th birthday, my parents turned the entire backyard into a Disney Princess Wonderland, complete with a hired performer. Madison's just more artistic, Mom would say when relatives questioned why they treated us so differently. She needs proper tools to develop her talent. I still remember Aunt Marjorie speaking up at a family dinner. Children should be loved equally. This isn't right. Mom waved her off like it was nothing. Oh, Marjorie, you don't have kids. You wouldn't understand. Our girls are just different. Madison has real potential. The worst part wasn't the gifts or the parties. It was how they made me feel like I wasn't good enough, like I didn't matter. When I won first place in a state math competition, I expected a congratulations from my mom. Instead, she said, "That's nice, dear, but did you see Madison's painting? It's displayed in the school hallway." My grandmother saw through it all. "This isn't right, Camille," she would tell my mom. "You're raising one child to feel entitled and the other to feel worthless." "Please, Mom," my mother would respond with an eye roll. "Madison is gifted. Rachel is, well, Rachel is just ordinary. We're being realistic about their abilities." Madison quickly learned how to take advantage of her position. If she broke something, she'd blame me, and my parents believed her without question. If she spilled juice on my homework by accident and I got upset, she'd cry, and somehow I ended up looking like the bad one. Once, she even told her friends not to play with me because I was the boring sister. When I got accepted into the advanced mathematics program at school, Madison had a small role in a school play. Guess which event my parents went to? I sat alone in the math classroom during the awards ceremony, watching other parents beam with pride at their children. My certificate was signed by my teacher and the principal, but my parents never even saw it. "Your sister needs us more," Dad would say if I tried to tell them how I felt. "She has real talents to nurture. You're more independent." Independent. It wasn't a compliment. It was their excuse for ignoring me. Even our relatives noticed what was happening. At family gatherings, everyone would go silent when Madison made a dramatic demand for attention or purposely left me out of activities. The adults would exchange awkward glances, but my parents acted like they didn't see it, or maybe they chose not to. Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. My surprise came in the form of a peanut butter sandwich at Grandma's house when I was 13. I had eaten peanut butter plenty of times before. It was actually one of my favorite foods. But that day was different. "Want a sandwich, sweetheart?" Grandma asked, spreading her famous peanut butter and honey mix onto bread. I nodded eagerly, watching her spread the creamy peanut butter. 3 bites in, I knew something was wrong. My throat started to tighten. Breathing got harder and harder. I remember dropping the sandwich, my hands grabbing at my throat. What happened next is still blurry in my memory. Grandma's quick thinking saved my life. She immediately recognized the signs of anaphylaxis and called 911. I remember her holding my hand in the ambulance. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the fear in it. "Stay with me, sweetheart. Just keep breathing." My parents showed up at the hospital about an hour later. They looked annoyed that they had to leave work. Mom tapped her foot impatiently as the doctor explained what happened. "She has a severe peanut allergy," the doctor said. "Sometimes allergies like this can show up suddenly, even if there were no problems before. She'll need to carry an EpiPen at all times, and you'll have to check every food label carefully. Cross-contamination can be just as dangerous." Dad nodded, but his eyes were on his watch. Mom was already typing away on her phone, probably messaging Madison's dance instructor about being late for pickup. The ride home was even worse than the hospital. They waited until we were in the car to really show how they felt. "This is just perfect," Mom muttered. As if we don't have enough to deal with already, Dad added, First, the math tutoring, now this. Everything with you has to be so complicated, doesn't it, Rachel? I pressed myself against the car door, trying to make myself as small as I could. My throat still hurt from the reaction, but their words hurt even more. The next few years were a careful routine of reading labels and carrying EpiPens everywhere I went. Grandma made sure I had proper medical alert bracelets and taught me how to speak up about my allergy. She even called the school to explain how serious my condition was. Madison, of course, found endless ways to make fun of me. She'd wave peanut butter sandwiches in front of my face, laughing when I flinched. "Oh, sorry," she'd say, pretending to be innocent. "I forgot you're allergic to everything now." At family gatherings, she'd shout, "Be careful, everyone. Rachel might die if she eats the wrong thing." Everyone would laugh awkwardly, and I'd feel like even more of an outsider. My parents never corrected her. If anything, they seemed irritated by the extra attention I needed. I learned to pack my own food, check every label 4 times, and never trust food I didn't personally check. It was exhausting, but it became my normal. When I graduated high school, it should have been a moment of triumph. I earned a full scholarship to Northwestern State University. I had done it all on my own, maintaining straight A's, working part-time jobs, and staying careful with my allergy. The acceptance letter felt like proof that all my hard work had been worth it. While I was studying late into the night, Madison's loud music would shake the walls of the house. But now I had something to show for it. The moment I announced my college acceptance is burned into my memory. I got into Northwestern, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Full academic scholarship." "That's nice, dear," Mom said without looking up from her plate. "The thing is," I continued, gripping my fork tightly, "I'll need help with housing. The scholarship covers tuition, but not accommodation. I've looked into the costs, and—" "No," Dad's voice was firm and flat. "You chose to apply to a college in another state. That was your decision. We're saving for Madison's education. She's planning to go to Riverside in 3 years, and that's not cheap." I stared at my plate, fighting back tears. Across the table, Madison smirked and twirled her pasta slowly, like she was enjoying the moment. "But it's just the housing cost." I tried again. "The scholarship covers everything else." "Rachel," Mom cut in sharply, "we've made our decision. If you want to go to college out of state, you'll have to figure out housing on your own." Right then, the front door opened. Grandma walked in, holding up a congratulations balloon and a small gift bag. Her smile faded as she looked around and saw my red eyes, Madison's smug face, and my parents' cold expressions. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Madison giggled, always ready to make things worse. "Oh, Rachel got into college, but she'll be living on the street because Mom and Dad won't pay for housing. They're saving for my Riverside education instead." The room fell silent. Grandma's expression darkened. "Is this true?" she asked quietly, but her voice was sharp. When no one answered, she continued, "Syl, John, how dare you? Your daughter earned a full scholarship and you won't even help her with housing." "Mom, please," my mother sighed. "Madison's education." Dad added quickly. "Madison's education." Grandma's voice rose with anger. "What about Rachel's education? What about supporting both your children?" Then she turned to Madison, who still wore that smug look. "And you," Grandma said, her voice colder now. "You're becoming a cruel, spoiled child. I'm ashamed of how you're behaving." Madison's face crumpled instantly and she burst into tears, her favorite trick when things didn't go her way. Mom and Dad jumped up to comfort her, shooting angry glares at Grandma and me. This is exactly what we mean. Mom snapped at Grandma. Rachel and you're always causing problems, always making things difficult. Something inside me broke. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, left the dining room, and climbed the stairs to my bedroom. I pulled out my old duffel bag and started throwing in clothes. A few minutes later, Grandma appeared in the doorway. "Pack everything you need, sweetheart. You're coming home with me." "But college," I started. "It'll be taken care of," she said firmly. "I'll pay for your housing. You focus on your studies and building your future." 30 minutes later, we walked out of that house together. Behind us, my parents' angry voices and Madison's fake sobs echoed through the walls. In that moment, I felt something shift. I was leaving behind the people who had always made me feel small and unwanted. I didn't know exactly what the future held, but for the first time in years, I felt hope. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt before: hope. College life was everything I had dreamed of and more. My tiny apartment near campus became my sanctuary, a place where I could finally breathe without feeling like I had to walk on eggshells. Grandma visited often. She never missed a birthday, a holiday, or any special moment in my life. My parents and Madison, on the other hand, became like ghosts. No calls on Christmas, no cards on my birthday, not even a text during graduation. 8 years of complete silence. So when I found myself standing on their doorstep after that phone call about my promotion, it felt unreal. The house looked exactly the same. The cream-colored walls, the perfect lawn, and the brass door knocker I used to stretch to reach as a child. Mom opened the door with an overly cheerful, "Rachel." Her voice sounded rehearsed. She pulled me into a hug that felt stiff and unfamiliar. The living room hadn't changed either. Madison's achievements still dominated the space. Her Riverside degree hung proudly above the fireplace, the center of attention. Madison sat in Dad's old armchair, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked at me, except to roll her eyes when Mom started gushing about my promotion. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart," Mom kept saying, her words feeling empty after 8 years of silence. "Aren't we, John?" Dad nodded from a spot on the couch. "Very proud. Moving up in a big company like that, it's impressive." "We need to celebrate properly," Mom continued, her voice shifting into the familiar tone she used when planning Madison's big events. "A big family gathering right here at the house. Everyone would love to see you. Aunt Marjorie, all your cousins, and Grandma, too." "And Grandma?" I asked pointedly. Of course," Mom said quickly, though I noticed the slight grimace she tried to hide. "We want to make things right, Rachel. It's been too long. How about 3 weeks from now? That'll give everyone time to make arrangements." Every instinct in me screamed that this was wrong, but I found myself nodding anyway. "Sure, that sounds nice." The 3 weeks leading up to the party felt strange. Work kept me busy with my new responsibilities, but my phone buzzed constantly. My suddenly attentive family couldn't stop messaging me. Mom sent daily texts about the party preparations. Madison, who hadn't spoken to me in years, suddenly sent me a friend request on social media. The message that came with it read, "Time to put the past behind us, sis." Grandma was thrilled. "Over one of our weekly dinners," she said, "this is all I've ever wanted, for my family to be whole again." Finally, the day of the party arrived. It was warm and sunny, a perfect day for a gathering. I pulled up to my parents' house and saw cars already lined up along the street. Inside, the house buzzed with activity. Aunt Marjorie's daughter, Lori, was running around with her phone, recording everything like a little documentary filmmaker. The smell of catered food filled the air, and I quickly noticed that everything was nut-free. That was a surprise. "Rachel," Grandma's warm hug greeted me first. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." Aunt Marjorie hugged me next. "We're so proud of you, kiddo. Department head at your age. That's incredible." Madison stood by the stairs, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She greeted guests with a perfectly practiced smile, like she was at a beauty pageant. Meanwhile, my parents floated around the house, acting like perfect hosts, as if the last 8 years hadn't happened. When everyone finally sat at the large decorated dining table, Mom stood and clinked her glass for attention. "We're so happy to have everyone here today," she began with a big smile. "As you know, we're celebrating Rachel's promotion." She paused as everyone clapped politely. "It's wonderful to see her finally finding her footing in the corporate world. I should have known the word finally was a red flag." And speaking of success, Mom continued, her voice brighter now, "I'd like to take a moment to talk about our Madison." She launched into a long speech about Madison's achievements, graduating Riverside with honors, her artistic talent, and how gifted she was. I sat there frozen as Mom finished with this. And now that Rachel has this wonderful position and a role in management, we're hoping she can help her incredibly qualified sister join this prestigious company. The table went silent. I felt Grandma's eyes on me and saw Aunt Marjorie shift uncomfortably in her chair. Lori's phone stayed focused on me, recording every painful second. "Actually," I said, my voice steady despite the pressure, "I'm not in a position to hire anyone. I'm a department head, not a director. I don't make hiring decisions." Mom's smile tightened, but she didn't give up. "Surely with your new influence." "Excuse me," I said, cutting her off as I stood. "Mom, Dad, can we talk privately?" They followed me into the kitchen, and their fake smiles disappeared the moment we were alone. "I thought this was supposed to be a celebration of my promotion," I said quietly. "Not a networking event for Madison." "Don't be selfish, Rachel," Mom snapped. "Madison needs this opportunity. Family helps family." "Selfish," I repeated, stunned. "After 8 years of silence, you only reach out because you want something from me, and I'm the selfish one." Dad's face hardened. "We've given Madison every advantage, invested everything in her future. The least you can do is help your sister now that you're in a position to do so." We walked back to the dining room, the tension trailing behind us like a storm cloud. I sat back down at the table, trying to ignore Grandma and Aunt Marjorie's worried glances. While we were gone, the catering staff had served the main course, some kind of fancy chicken dish with a creamy sauce. I took a couple of bites, my mind still spinning from the conversation in the kitchen. The sauce had an unusual flavor. Nutty. Suddenly my throat felt tight. Panic hit me like a wave as I realized what was happening. "Peanuts," I gasped, my hands shaking as I grabbed for my purse, fumbling for my EpiPen. "There's peanuts." The room started to spin. Chairs scraped across the floor, and voices rose in panic. Grandma's voice broke through the noise. "Someone call 911. After that, everything became a blur. Shadows. Noise. Chaos. The last thing I felt was my throat closing and Grandma's hands holding mine. I woke up to the steady beep of hospital monitors. My throat was raw and my body felt heavy. Grandma was sitting beside my bed, her face tired and full of worry. "Oh, thank God," she whispered, leaning closer when she saw my eyes open. "We almost lost you, sweetheart. The doctor said it was one of the worst reactions they've ever seen." I tried to speak, but the pain in my throat was too much. "Don't try to talk yet," Grandma said, squeezing my hand gently. "You've been out for several hours. The EpiPen and paramedics barely got to you in time. I managed to whisper the food. They knew. Before Grandma could answer, Aunt Marjorie burst into the room, followed closely by Lori. Lori held her phone tightly, her face unusually serious. "Rachel," Aunt Marjorie said, her voice shaking with anger. "There's something you need to see. Lori, show her." Lori stepped forward, her hands trembling as she held out her phone. "I was recording everything at the party," she said quietly. "I caught this when you were in the kitchen with your parents. On the video, the dining room came into view from a spot near the dessert table. I could see myself leaving the room with my parents. A moment later, Madison stood up, walked over to my place setting, and reached into her designer purse. She pulled out a small jar, stirred something into my food, then sat back down. The smirk on her face was unmistakable. "That's peanut butter," Aunt Marjorie said, her voice hard. "Your sister deliberately put peanut butter in your food, knowing full well about your allergy." I stared at the screen, unable to look away as the scene replayed. Madison, my own sister, had tried to. She could have killed me. "She knew exactly what she was doing," Grandma said softly, her voice breaking. The room fell silent as we watched the video again. Madison's actions were so casual, so deliberate. That tiny smirk as she stirred the peanut butter into my food made it clear this wasn't a mistake. It was planned. I left the hospital against the doctor's advice, fueled by a mix of rage and disbelief. The video Lori had sent me felt heavy in my pocket, as though it carried the weight of everything I had just been through. When I pulled up to my parents' house, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Inside, they were all sitting in the living room, Mom, Dad, and Madison, acting like nothing had happened, as if I hadn't nearly died at their dinner table just hours earlier. "What are you doing here?" Madison asked, barely looking up from her phone. "Shouldn't you still be at the hospital being dramatic?" "I know what you did," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I know you put peanut butter in my food." Madison's head shot up, her face twisting with outrage. "How dare you accuse your sister?" Mom snapped, jumping to her feet. "Haven't you caused enough trouble?" I pulled out my phone, opened the video, and pressed play. The room went silent. The only sound was the video playing, Madison walking to my plate, stirring peanut butter into my food with a smug smile. The color drained from Madison's face. Then, incredibly, she laughed. "Oh, come on. It was just a prank," she said with a shrug. "You're always so serious about everything." "A prank?" My voice shook with anger. I could have died. Do you understand that? The doctor said I barely made it. "Oh, please," Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. "You're being dramatic. Madison was just having a bit of fun." Fun? I stared at them, stunned. I had an anaphylactic reaction. My heart nearly stopped. Dad's voice turned cold as he spoke. "Listen carefully. If you even think about taking this to the police, you're no longer our daughter. We'll disinherit you completely." Everything became quite evident in that instant. These folks weren't related to me. They had never been. Without saying another word, I turned and left. Now that my hands were steady, I got into my car and headed home. I was fully aware of what I needed to do. I posted the video to my social media accounts while seated at my computer. I wrote beneath it, "I discovered today the true meaning of family, and these individuals do not embody it. Knowing that I have a potentially fatal allergy, my sister purposefully poisoned me with peanuts. It was a joke, according to my parents. I will never again refer to them as family." The reaction was swift and tremendous. I received shocked and angry comments from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Aunt Marjorie posted the video along with some of her own harsh criticism. Colleagues and friends expressed their support and horror. My parents and Madison fought back, leaving comments calling me an attention seeker and claiming it was all a misunderstanding. But the video spoke for itself. I went to the police station the following morning and made a formal report. I received a letter from my parents' attorney that afternoon. Officially, it was. They had taken me away from their will and disowned me. Madison tried to play the victim by uploading a sobbing video to the internet later that day. She said that my falsehoods were ruining the family. However, I wasn't by myself. That night, Grandma gave me a call. "I've spoken to my lawyer," she stated authoritatively. "I'm cutting them off completely. You're my only heir now, Rachel. You've always been more my daughter than Camille's anyway." That evening, I reviewed the deluge of messages on my phone while lounging on my couch. Real friends, family, and coworkers poured in their support. Lori texted me, "You're still my favorite cousin," and my phone buzzed. "You're welcome to join us for dinner at any moment," according to Mom. I had left a poisonous family 8 years prior. I was running toward a genuine one this time. The family you are born into may not always be the one you were intended to have. You have to construct your own sometimes.